Could it be the case that Christianity is good for society, but isn't actually true? May strike you as a slightly odd question, but intriguingly, there are a growing number of public intellectuals who seem to hold that position. In fact, there have been many reports in the news in recent weeks of high-profile public figures, public thinkers, coming out and saying words to the effect of they appreciate Christianity because it gives us a foundation for human rights and for dignity and free speech and civic society, but they don't seem to actually have considered the possibility that Christianity is true. For example, a few weeks ago, a well-known public intellectual called Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who was one of the so-called new atheists from a generation or so ago, shocked journalists by publishing an essay in an online political magazine where she actually announced she'd become a Christian. That stunned people because for many years Ayaan had been a high-profile atheist. Before that, she'd been a Muslim. She'd abandoned her Muslim faith many years ago and had become an atheist, hung out with people like Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens and others. But in her article, Why I'm a Christian, you read it carefully, and really what she's done is she's saying she likes Christianity because it gives things like human rights and dignity and value and free speech and so on, in a way that atheism doesn't. But there was nothing in there about Jesus, the Bible, faith in God, these kind of things. Or take someone like Douglas Murray. Douglas Murray is a very well-known public intellectual, well-known journalist, very committed atheist. Douglas now identifies himself as a Christian atheist, by which he means he doesn't believe in God, but he does think that Christianity is phenomenally helpful in terms of the things that it contributes, and he would argue that all the things that we hold dear, or certainly many of the things that we hold dear in the West, are built very much on Christian foundations, human rights being the main one. So the question is, can we have the kind of public goods that Christianity offers without actually belief in God? Well, a few thoughts occur to me as I consider this phenomena. The first thing is, it seems to be a very strange conundrum that something might be seen to work, but actually when you start looking behind the scenes, it makes no sense at all. We would want to ask some questions. For example, if you came to me and said, Andy, I've got this amazing new toaster, it's entirely powered by tiny little leprechauns that sit inside pedaling on bicycle chains, and you proceed to make me a nice slice of toast. Well, I would certainly enjoy the toast. I like a piece of toasted marmalade as much as the next guy. But trust me, I would want to open the back on your toaster to see what's going on in the inside, because there seems to be some strange kind of disconnect between the lovely toast that's being made, but the ridiculous story that's supporting it. So likewise, I would challenge my atheist friends for Christianity. I don't think it's enough to say Christianity offers some things that I really like, but I believe that its fundamental claims are nonsensical. Something weird seems to be going on there. The next thing I would say is it seems very, very unfortunate and very tragic that as an atheist like Douglas Murray, for example, that you have to live in this strange kind of contradictory world where on the one hand you want to say everything that follows from Christianity is I really appreciate, but I still think that Christianity fundamentally isn't true. You almost have to go around believing two sets of entirely contradictory things, and that's a very painful place to be. In fact, the writer George Orwell wrote a very famous book called 1984 a few decades ago in which he talks about doublethink, this idea of holding sort of two contradictory ideas in your mind and whatever you do, not seeing what happens if you actually try and resolve them. And then thirdly, I'd want to say on this, I think those goods that my atheist friends appreciate increasingly in Christianity, like human rights and dignity and value and free speech and so on, they're not merely accidental byproducts. It's not that those early Christian thinkers who built European civilization sort of randomly came up with those things. They flow very much out of the Christian faith. Because the Bible teaches, in the case of human rights, that human beings are not just random accidents of chemistry and biology, but are made in the very image of God, and God demonstrated his love and his value that he placed upon us when he stepped into history in the person of Jesus and gave his life for us. Now, if those claims about how we are created and what God has done for us are true, then human value follows naturally. If you take out the foundational claims, then tough and challenging as it is, you have to embrace the conclusion that human beings do not have value and dignity, but are actually indeed just accidents of time plus chance plus natural selection. You cannot have, as it were, the goods of Christianity without the claims and the beliefs on which they are predicated. So I would encourage my atheist friends who deeply value those things that have come from Christianity, take a proper look at the Christian faith. Engage with writers and thinkers and intellectuals who are deeply, deeply Christian, who have wrestled these things through. If you believe, for example, in human rights and justice and dignity, go read C.S. Lewis, a very famous Christian thinker. Go read his book, The Abolition of Man, for example. That will help you think some of those issues through. And I would encourage you to embrace the claims of Jesus, because the wonderful news about Christianity is Jesus doesn't ask us to leave our brains and our minds at the door, but he said, love the Lord your God with your heart, your mind, and your soul, because that way you can integrate the desires of the heart and the thoughts of the mind, and you don't have to live in dissonance. You can have all those wonderful goods, public goods that flow from the Christian faith, but you can also, with intellectual coherence and rational confidence, embrace the claims and the person of Jesus who stand behind them.